How y'all doing? Well, we got better today. There's no doubt about that. As I'll say every year, or I guess every signing period, we'll know about this class in 2 or 3 years. It's a developmental game, and that is the bottom line. You got to get the guys on the campus and obviously evaluate who you want and the film, the transcript, the character, the integrity, all of those things, get them on campus and develop them. And that's what I think our staff does a fantastic job of. Last year's signing class, 16 played, 5 were starters, 2 of them were named freshman All-SEC. So it says a lot about the production we got from last year's class, and signed 18 guys today. We signed 20 because Jamel Cook and Josh Belk both count in this class. So that's how we kind of look at it as far as initials are concerned. So they're counted in this class. 16 guys from the footprint of what we recruit: South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, and I would include Tennessee in that category. We've done a nice job there of getting some really good football players from. Big, long, and athletic. You've got 13 guys that are line of scrimmage players, and 12 that we signed, and obviously Josh Belk, who's on campus, and that's a place we needed to continue to improve our program moving forward, is on both lines of scrimmage. 7 of these guys played for state championships and 3 won state championships. So being able to get guys and attract guys from winning programs, I think, is always important. And the interesting stat there. I'll start with the quarterback position. Ryan Helensky from Orange Lutheran High School will be a mid-year enrollee, won multiple national awards as far as the quarterback position is concerned, was an Elite 11 finalist, can really spin it, had him in camp. Dan Warner did a fantastic job with Ryan. Mark and Kim, his parents, are great people, and it's a great family, and really excited about him coming on campus here in January. And I really think he's a good football player, has a lot of the intangible qualities you got to have at that position. We're looking forward to getting him to campus. Kevin Harris is a young man from Bradwell Institute, Hinesville, Georgia, down in South Georgia, and really came and earned his scholarship at camp. We really liked his film. Weren't totally certain about his top-end speed. He came into camp and ran 4.55, a vertical 34 inches, which is really good, but a really big lower body. Very difficult guy to tackle, when you talk in terms of a power running game, and getting better there and adding some toughness to that position for us. Kevion Mullins from Whitehaven High School in Tennessee played for the state championship, matter of fact, against Joe Anderson in Oakland, and lost in the state championship game. But a big receiver, 6'3", 200-plus pounds, came to our camp, and really good ball skills. A guy that we're really excited about him, and his mom Sharita has been great in this recruiting process, and excited about getting Kevion on campus there. Taekwon Johnson we signed a year ago from Screven County down in South Georgia, Sylvania. He went to Fork Union and did a really nice job this fall. But again, another guy that came to our camp a year ago. And really put up some impressive numbers: a 36.5 vertical leap, 10.4 broad jump. A very explosive guy, especially at that 6'3", 200-plus pounds, continuing to improve our receiver room, and I think he certainly is going to be able to do that. Trey Kenyon also will be a mid-year enrollee. Was at Monroe High School in North Carolina, and Tony, his mom, got a job up there in the Wake Forest, Raleigh area, and he moved up there and won the state championship this past year. But a guy at the tight end position that we think's really gifted in the throwing game, really added some things to their high school football team. And when he came to camp, the thing that I was most impressed with was his competitive edge. He really competes when he gets on the field, and obviously you see what he did this past senior year. Really excited about him. Keyshawn Toney's the other tight end that we signed from Williston Elko, right down the road, a Shrine Bowl participant, and a guy that we, again, had in camp, 6'3", 240 pounds, moves extremely well. When you get the feedback from the Shrine Bowl coaches, that's one of the things they talked about, was how impressed they were with him. But I think this guy's got a tremendous upside. I think we're just scratching the surface about what he can do. He played mostly wide out for Williston Elko, but now he'll be more of an attached tight end for us, another mid-year enrollee, a guy that I think's got a tremendous upside. Mark Fox from Miami Northwestern, a state championship team. They started the season, I think, 0-4, and ended up winning the state championship. Got things turned around, but a guy, again, we had in camp, very athletic. We think can be a three-position guy as far as a center, a guard, or a tackle, but gives you a lot of variety as far as his athleticism and length. But we got to continue to get more athletic on the offensive line, and I think that's something that Eric Wolford's done a really nice job of identifying these guys early in the process and locking on the guys that we need to sign. Ja'Kai Moore from Patriot High School up in Virginia, saw him play basketball Friday night. It's pretty impressive to see a 6'4", 300-pounder run up and down the court. Starts on their basketball team, and Ja'Kai's been a guy that we've pinpointed. Really enjoyed Friday night sitting with Cynthia's mom at the game, but a guy that's got a tremendous upside as a football player. I mean, we think his genetic ceiling's very high. As far as a guy that's got a lot sitting in front of him, and really excited about him. Vincent Murphy from St. Thomas High School down in Fort Lauderdale, one of the best programs in the country, was a state runner-up. Vincent's interesting, was one of the first underclassmen ever in St. Thomas history to be named a team captain. So you want to talk in terms of leadership ability, a guy that we could feel like could be a center or guard. But Bill and Michelle, his parents have been great. They visited one of the spring visits we had this past spring, which I thought went extremely well. We're excited about having Vincent a part of our program. Jalen Nichols from Myers Park up in Charlotte. Another outstanding program, up there. Scott Chadwick does a fantastic job with their program, but a big guy that we had in camp, right at 6'5", 315 pounds. I watched him practice. They were in the playoffs, I think in the third round, getting ready to play Vance. And you watch him athletically, his feet, change of direction, his lower body flexibility. Extremely impressive with Jalen. And this guy's got a huge upside. He's going to be a mid-year enrollee, so he'll be able to go through spring, which I think is really beneficial for any player. Joseph Anderson from Oakland High School up in Nashville, transferred from Siegel, where Max Yamaya went to school as a junior, went to Oakland. They won the state championship, dislocated his elbow in the first game of the year, and never missed a snap. Got some toughness about him. The coaches, Coach Creasy and his staff at Oakland, rave about Joseph and his leadership ability, but I thought a guy that tremendously improved throughout his senior year and played at an extremely high level, especially in the playoffs, and was a very difficult guy to block. We had some coaches at the state championship game, and they were extremely impressed with Joseph and what he did on the field. And Joe and Teresa, his parents, were outstanding throughout this entire process. Devante Davis, this one goes back about 2 years. This is why you have camp. You find guys like this. Devante was at Silver Bluff High School over in Aiken, and a guy, you see his length, his athleticism. Went to Georgia Military, did a fantastic job there. He's actually practiced with us the last 2 days. You've got to go through an NCAA period where you acclimatize yourself. So he's only been in helmets and hasn't been able to get in pads yet. I think he'll be in shells tomorrow and shells Friday, and then we're only going to have a helmets practice on Saturday. But big and athletic, got great length. I'm really excited to finally have Devante here. Obviously, he's on campus now. Zack Pickens, a mid-year enrollee from T.L. Hanna High School, led T.L. Hanna to the state championship game this year. Did about everything for him, close to 1,000 yards rushing. A fantastic defensive end, and a guy that's bringing a lot to our program. I won about every award there was in the state of South Carolina as far as high school awards, player of the year in the state. Could have gone anywhere we wanted to go and stayed right here at home in the state of South Carolina and play for his state school. So we're really excited about Zach. His mom, Felicia's been great. Kevin's a walk-on our football team right now, and he's been outstanding. So we're excited about getting Zach on campus here in January. Rodriguez Fenton from Booker T High School over in Atlanta is a twitch guy on the edge, something that very similar to what I would say Bryson Allen Williams, a guy that gives you a little bit faster twitch on the edge. Committed to us, was really our first commitment in this class, I think September of 17, but has stuck with us ever since, had an outstanding senior year, a guy that, again, we think he's got a tremendous upside. He's a mid-year enrollee. He'll be here on campus in January. Derek Boykins from Central Cabarrus High School, another mid-year enrollee. This guy was a guy that played Wildcat quarterback. He played running back. He played linebacker. He played safety. But he's a very explosive guy. Having him in camp and seeing his movement skills, really excited about him and the upside he has. Originally from Beaufort, South Carolina, and grew up a Gamecock. So we're excited to have him coming home here. Jamar Brown from St. Thomas High School down in Fort Lauderdale. Another guy from that program, a state runner-up, but it really impressive with him in camp. But he's got 33-inch arms. He's got 11-inch hand, a guy that we think's got a tremendous upside as far as his structure is concerned. We think he'll be a 215, 218, 20-pound guy probably in a year or so. But really good athleticism and really smart, directs their defense the last 3 years, and Jason Taylor's their defensive coordinator. I coached at the Dolphins, but Jason thinks he's a really smart player, a guy that gets everybody aligned and really can command the defense, which that's something obviously that excites me. John Dixon from Chamberlain High School down in Tampa. 2 years ago we had John in camp and felt like he was one of the best cover corners that we've seen in our camps, and had a patella issue with his knee to start his senior year and really didn't play a whole lot and really wasn't healthy through the entire season. But, we know what John can do when he's healthy, and we think he's a lockdown corner, a guy that has got a tremendous upside. Excited about having John a part of the program. And Cam Smith right here in Westwood High School, by way of Maryland. Alicia's mom took a job up in Maryland, and they moved back to Columbia, thank goodness, for his senior year. But again, guy that came to camp, ran sub 4.5, 36 vertical, 10.5 broad. I mean, those are NFL numbers in the combine as far as your explosive power to be a 6'1" corner at 185 pounds. So, again, Cam's got a huge upside. He will be a mid-year enrollee. He doesn't have anything wrong with his shoulder. I know there were some claims out there that he had all kind of shoulder injuries, but he doesn't. He's fine, and he will actually be playing in the Army game in January. So again, we really improved ourselves today, especially on both lines of scrimmage. That was critical for us going into it to continue to have the quality depth that we've got to have on the line of scrimmage in our league to be successful. And open up for any questions.
Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you, David. First.
Well, I know that Helinski and Pickens obviously had the big stats as high schoolers, but just their status as high-ranking recruits, how does that help your project going further down the line in terms of recruiting?
Well, I think first thing you got to be able to do is own your state, and we offered 4 guys in the state of South Carolina, and all 4 came. So, and Zack was certainly a high-profile player in our state and also the country. He could have gone anywhere he wanted to, and he wanted to stay home and play for the Gamecocks. And Ryan, obviously being able to go national and sign a guy from the state of California that was attracted to come to South Carolina, came to our campus multiple times on unofficial visits and then an official visit last spring. He and his parents were extremely impressed, obviously, with the things we're doing with the program, and he saw a great opportunity here. So, again, it's all about fit. At the end of the day, when you go through the recruiting process with a student athlete, do they feel like they fit what you want to do academically, athletically, socially, spiritually, and both of those are really good fits for us.
I guess you signed 2 players from Tennessee in this cycle, and then obviously Max last. Is that an area that you've normally recruited when you were obviously coming up as an assistant? And what about football there?
Well, the football's really improving there a lot. Number one in Nashville because of the Titans, and they've had a lot of it's one of the fastest growing areas in the United States. So there's a lot of people that are moving in that aren't necessarily tied to the state, kind of like Atlanta a little bit, kind of like Charlotte a little bit. So we've been able, and Bobby Bentley's really done a nice job up there getting some inroads in that state to help us recruit better there. Eldridge Thompson's also from Memphis, went to White Station High School. So by way of Coffeyville Junior College. But, we feel really good about, the areas to be able to recruit. Nashville's an easy flight to Charlotte, and it's an hour drive. So really for a family, that's an easy trip to come see their son play. And that's always, to me, it's always you draw 5 hours around your campus and figure out where you can recruit the best. And then from there, you can continue to branch out to find the best players to attract a guy like Ryan Helinski to come from California.
Well, in your mind going forward, is today National Signing Day? And if so, do you kind of tweak workflow in January and early February because of the preponderance of players signing today?
I don't know what the stats are nationally. I mean, we've been right at 20, I think, every year. I mean, the 2 years we've done it, excuse me. So it is National Signing Day, but also you have one in February as well. I think the increasing numbers of mid-year graduates, we got 12 guys that are going to be here in January, and that's huge. Those, and that's really twofold. A compliment to the student athlete, number one, to put themselves in a position to be able to graduate from high school early, to obviously have all their things in order. So you're looking at from a standpoint of a maturity standpoint about a young man handling his business, because that's hard. I mean, it's really difficult to do. A lot of school systems don't allow them to do that. Some do, but that's a compliment to the young men. It's also a testament to Maria Hickman and our academic staff, because you can't just have a mid-year guy to have a mid-year guy. You've got to be under your 85, which means your players have to be graduating. The player just can't leave the program. He's got to be a graduated player from the program. And of the 13 guys we had graduate last week, 6 of them are still got eligibility. So you can't replace those numbers. So it says, again, what we're doing graduating our players, that's why we ranked 3rd in the country last year in graduation rate. But no, I think that you got to focus as this being signing date, and then you reassess where you are after today and say, what do we need to target in February?
I'm sure you guys have recruited players over the years who dealt with personal tragedy and loss and all that, but with the Helinskis and just sort of the national attention that has gotten, how did that change things for y'all? Maybe not necessarily with how you guys recruited him, but just with all the stuff that sort of came from the outside, all the attention.
Well, I don't know that we changed anything as far as that's concerned, but they've been first class in how they've handled, Ryan's recruitment, obviously, and the tragic situation that their family's been through. Helinski's Hope is a wonderful charity organization, and we support that as well.
Well, and just in terms of filling positions of need, do you feel like you've done that with these 18, or will there be a greater emphasis on the other 5 that you may add before February?
Would like to be, add an offensive lineman in this class, and I feel like we need to add some defensive backs. I feel good about our numbers, on our roster right now across the board about where we are. You kind of got to get into this kind of like you did when I was in the NFL, and you get in the draft and it's late. You're getting in the late rounds, taking the best available player. That's really what I told the staff this morning. You look at the whatever number we have on the board of guys that we feel like we can sign in February. Let's take best available player right now, as opposed to maybe targeting a need. And that's kind of how I look at it.
2 questions. One, do you expect to maybe add a little bit more in the wide receiver group? Are you pretty happy there? And also just in this process, how important is camp? And are those camps to kind of the whole structure of this?
Well, camps are essential for us. I got a hard time of signing anybody that doesn't come work in our camps, because at the end of the day, coaching the player-coach relationship's a two-way street, and there may be a player walk out of here going, man, there ain't no way I want to play for that guy, and that's fine. I'm not for everybody, that's good. So I would rather know that up front and know how that guy ticks and how he coaches, because we coach them the same way we coach them when they come here. And so I think it's really important. I think it's really important because sometimes the film can lie to you a little bit, and you want to be able to see the guy and see some of the skill set things that he can do and compare him to some of the players maybe you've coached previously to say, okay, this is very similar to what this player can do, so I feel that he'll translate very easily to what we do here. So I think those things are really important. What was your first question? Well, I think, again, you go back to signing best available player. I like our numbers at the receiver position right now, and I like our room. I think that we've done a good job in that room as far as recruiting good players, but certainly you're not going to turn down a good player.
From the outside looking in this morning, it just seemed like everything went very smoothly. Was it as smooth on the inside of the office as it appeared outside? Did you have any late phone calls you needed to make, any fires you had to put out?
No, it was very smooth, unusually. So normally you do have a brush fire come up the night before or that morning. We had a couple of things flare up on us, but there was nothing that was anything alarming. And we had practice this morning. We started on Virginia this morning, so we had everything done before our 9 o'clock meeting for the most part, except for maybe 2, and we were waiting on those. But we felt very, very confident in both those situations.
On the defensive line, how do you feel about that group overall?
Really good. I think you look at the last 2 years and the contributions that young players and a guy like Josh Belk and Ricky Sandage and JJ of the contributions they've made this year, the guys we've got coming back next year, and Kier and Javon and Kobe, as seniors, and signed Jabari, and he's been able to play now in 4 games, and he'll get a year back to create some separation for that class. Tyreek Johnson's another guy we're excited about. Tore his ACL in camp, but was extremely impressive in spring ball last year. that we think's got a chance to be a good football player. And then obviously the guys we've brought in this class will have some opportunities. And the great thing is Rodriguez Fenton is mid-year, Zach is mid-year, Joe is mid-year. Devante's on campus right now. So all of those guys will be able to go through spring with us. And I'm excited about the athleticism, the length, and the depth and the quality depth you've got to have in our league.
When it comes to Zach, does it mean anything? Do you think it means anything from a perception and maybe momentum, for lack of a better word, to sign a Mr. Football, the number one recruited player in your state?
Well, we've done that the last 2 years to Carry Joyner as well. So, again, the first thing you want to do is take care of your state and sign the best players in your state. And the 4 guys we offered, the only 4 we offered in the state, we signed the 4 guys. So we feel good about that. I think Zach's a really good football player. I think he gives us some short yardage and goal line options to get a big back in there, and I know that's been a little frustrating. I've gotten most of the emails from our fans, so hopefully he'll be able to answer some questions there for us too.
I was going to ask that about Zach. Has he talked to you about being able to run the ball and wanting to run and make sure that he runs the ball?
You know, as far as, and I've been doing this for a long, long time, as far as high profile guys, you know, Zack Pickens has probably been the most low-maintenance guy I've ever recruited in my life, just be honest with you. And that's the type of young man he is. That's how Felicia raised him, and he is an outstanding young man, and he's going to be a great addition to our team.
There seems to be an epidemic of quarterbacks who at one time were highly recruited and highly rated, transferring out of the programs for whatever reason, competition, whatever the case may be. You're going to face a situation where you've got an established senior quarterback next year and the highly touted, highly talked about recruit coming in. Have you and the offensive coaches talked about, besides, you know, opening up for competition and all that, but how do you handle that quarterback room with that kind of situation?
You earn everything you get in this program. And if you earn the opportunity to play, then you play. If you earn the opportunity to start, then you start. And we make every decision based on what's going to help our football team win. And I think our players and our organization understand that. You know, the quarterback position, Phil, is a little unique in that there's only one guy playing. It's not like receiver where you can put 3 guys out there, or defensive back where you're playing with 4 and 5 and sometimes 6 at a time. There's only one guy playing, so that's why you see that as much as anything. But you know, I think we give everybody the fair opportunity to have the shot to play and go from there.
You mentioned today going pretty smoothly and Zach being pretty low maintenance. It seems like just looking at this group that signed, it's been a pretty low maintenance group. Not a lot of guys who were kind of hedging or taking visits, anything like that. Does that say anything about the class from a character standpoint or anything along those lines?
I think it says a lot about this class and the type. And, you know, it's interesting that when the guys come unofficially, where they come to a game or they come on a spring visit or they come to during the camp sessions, you know, generally the guys gravitate to each other. And that's kind of how recruiting classes get built, and they start gravitating and they get on these group texts and different things. And that's kind of what's happened with this class. They're very similar as far as, you know, we've had multiple guys, you know, Kevion Mullins, Joe Anderson, that have all had people been recruiting them until this morning that no one else knows about. We've known about it as a staff, but they've been no issue, and they keep telling Coach, you have nothing to worry about. I'm going to be a Gamecock. And multiple people in our league still coming after him. So, but that says a lot about the character of our guys, and they stuck with us, and that does say a lot about them.
Almost every offensive lineman you talked about, you said they have tremendous upside. Just can you talk about the talent Eric Wolford has and being able to find those guys, those needle in the haystacks?
Right. I think the biggest thing, you know, and you know, Eric is a really good evaluator, and Eric made the comment to me, which is 100% right. You know, I want to have guys you want to recruit on defense, athletically. And you really think about it, you know, you're asking me to block those guys. Why don't I have guys that's just as athletic as those guys? And when you see a Ja'Kai Moore, when you see Mark Fox, and you see his athleticism and movement skills, you know, you see Vincent Murphy and his movement skills. I mean, those are all guys to me that have just what you would say is a tremendous upside as far as what they can do. You know, when you look at Jalen Nichols move around at 318 pounds, 320 pounds, you know, I watched him at practice, and you could, if you didn't know, you'd say, well, he probably weighs about 270. You didn't know because he carries it extremely well, and he moves his feet extremely well. He's got really good lower body flexibility, which is key for a big guy. So, you again, you got to continue to prove your athleticism, and you'll give some other things, in my opinion, at that position for athleticism, because you got to block some very athletic big men in our league.
When Cam gets here, will he be a guy who could play corner or safety, or is that something to be determined down the road?
Well, we're just going to get the best 4 out there, and the best 5, and then the best 6. I mean, he's going to start out at corner. Yeah.
The offensive line question. When you're out evaluating talent on the offensive line, especially in this class, how important is it for you to look at guys that can play multiple positions? I know you mentioned it earlier about having guys that can play guard, tackle, or center.
Well, you look at our offensive line this year. Blake Camper can play guard. He can play tackle. Zach played tackle a year ago, comes back and plays guard. Donnell Stanley can play every position. Can play center, can play inside, and can play outside. Sedarius Hutchinson, can play tackle, can play guard. So to be able to have some position variety, what it does, Colin, it provides you depth on your roster without having to play another player, maybe if that other player's not ready. So you're able to get your best 5 on the field instead of just saying this is the next guy on the depth chart. So that's really where it helps you as much as anything. But it also takes intelligence, because it's hard to play multiple spots, especially on the offensive line when there's a lot of moving parts and they're moving extremely quick in a lot of situations. So that's a huge part of it.
Just what kind of an impact has Jessica Jackson had on building and assembling this group?
Well, she's the liaison on campus for all parents in situations of academics, questions about housing. There's a multitude of questions you can imagine that a parent's going to have about her son going to school in Columbia. And she does a fantastic job with the parents and talking to the parents and talking them through. I probably don't know about 1/8 about what she has to deal with, but I only have to deal with it when it gets to me, and I hadn't had any issues in 3 years, so that means she's doing a really good job.
Do you have an ideal number that you like to sign on the defensive line?
I think, combination-wise, and I would say from a standpoint of defensive end, I would lump together nose and defensive tackle. All right, now, there are some guys that you would sign and you say this is strictly a 0 nose or a shade, because he may not be athletic enough to play defensive tackle, if that makes sense. But you lump those two together, and then you always look at the buck position as either a DPR, designated pass rusher. He can be a Mike, Will, or Sam, or he is a buck that's athletic enough to play defensive end like Dennis Wanham. And that combination of guys has got to be at 16 across the board. So you add defensive end, tackle and nose, and then the buck position. I always want to be at 16.
And with Devante Davis, where do you kind of see him fitting in? What have you seen kind of out of him kind of helping your program next year?
Well, we're going to start him out at defensive end and then kind of see where it goes from there, But he's a guy that's got length. He's got athleticism. How big is he going to get growth-wise? I think we had Devante listed right at 280. That's probably about what he's at, 280, 285. So, again, we'll evaluate that, but he's going to start out as a defensive end for us.
Well, just about the process of this December signing day again, do you sit there thinking, good gosh, it's before Christmas and I've got the bulk of my class locked in now, or is your mind on those 5 additional spots or however many you're going to sign before February?
Well, I'm thinking in terms of what's going to happen in February. Now, we've moved on, and 12 of these 18 are going to be on our campus here in about 3 weeks. So I'm excited about that, to have those guys go through the developmental process of the spring. And then obviously we got Virginia on our mind too, and Christmas.
How much did offering Ryan kind of early on in the process, before he got a lot of his offers and profile online and all that stuff, how much do you think that helped you guys in sort of getting in on the ground floor with him?
I know that Ryan made a southeastern trip and saw a lot of schools, including South Carolina, in that trip, and I think that's when he kind of felt comfortable. I want to say it was probably February, maybe January. I don't know for sure. I know he committed in April, I believe, but I think that kind of started things. And again, it all goes back to fit to me. where a player feels comfortable. And he may come on our campus and go, I just don't really like the vibe here. I don't like the feel here, and that's fine. Go somewhere else. The ones we don't sign, I got to worry about one day out of the year, maybe. The ones we do sign, I got to worry about 365 days. So that's what, to me, is really important about fit and getting the right kind of guy.
Is there anyone whose style Jamar Brown kind of reminds you of smaller linebacker? Right? You said kind of longer, but also really dynamic.
Well, you really look at our linebacker class from last year. Rosendo Lewis and Ernest Jones are both bigger backers, Jamar's a guy that we were excited about, that we feel like could play the dime position for us, that we may not have to sub in some situations. He can cover and play in space because he does a lot of that for St. Thomas. And so, again, that was kind of a target for us as far as a guy that we felt like athletically could play in space and do a lot of different things coverage-wise.
Anything else for Coach?
All right, thank you very much.